Hello, everyone. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. It would really help the channel out quite a bit. Thank you very much.
NBC presents Hollywood. The National Broadcasting Company brings you Radio Theater. Again this evening, substituting for Herbert Marshall as the host of Radio Theater is the popular star of stage and motion pictures, Mr. Vincent Price. And here he is to introduce an outstanding play with a brilliant cast, Vincent Price.
Good evening from Hollywood. This is Vincent Price. The story we have chosen for tonight concerns itself with a problem that has reached alarming proportions in our present-day society. It is The Snake Pit, Mary Jane Ward's best-selling novel, which also became an outstanding and thought-provoking motion picture. It is the story of an intelligent young woman who became a victim of mental illness and tells with frankness and honesty of her experiences in a mental hospital. It is a powerful, even shocking story, and one that is told with compelling dramatic force. And as our star this evening, we are fortunate in having one of Hollywood's finest dramatic actresses, Miss Agnes Moorehead. And here is Act One of tonight's radio theater presentation of Mary Jane Ward's The Snake Pit, starring Agnes Moorehead.
Mrs. Robert P. Cunningham, Jr., Juniper Hill Hospital. It was there on the envelope in Robert's writing. All you had to do was look, which was why you didn't look. You felt horrified and ashamed. Mrs. Robert P. Cunningham, Jr. was you. And this was a mental hospital.
43. What? 43. What about it? That's your number. Hang your clothes on the hanger and put your shoes under the place numbered 43. Then get into bed. Oh. You're Virginia Cunningham, aren't you?
Yes, I think so.
43.
You crawled into the right cot thinking, it must be the right one because nobody's throwing me out. There was a girl next to you recognized as Grace. You didn't know her last name, but you were sure, almost sure, her name was Grace. You took Robert's letter and put it under your pillow, and then you felt safer.
Quiet, ladies.
Grace? Yes? How long have I been here? Here in 3? No, just here in the hospital.
You came around January.
What month is this?
August.
August?
That's right, August. Did you know you were here that long?
No, I don't know. Isn't that a riot? I must be crazy. I must be crazy. Isn't that a riot? Oh, Robert, where's Robert? I can't hear you. When I put out my hand, I said that too. Oh, Robert.
Good morning, ladies. Hurry up, Virginia.
I am.
Always the command to hurry, and you hurried nowhere. You arrived nowhere. There were 4 wash bowls. You waited in line to brush your teeth and wash your face. In one of the wash bowls, a gray-haired woman was trying pathetically to give herself a bath. The next in line shoved her away. You stumbled toward the breakfast line.
Not you, Virginia. You go for shock this morning. Can't you remember anything?
You should concentrate. It makes Miss Hart mad when you forget. And it counts against you.
Put on this robe and follow me.
The minute you saw the room, you knew that you had received shock therapy before. You wanted to scream, to run away. They forced you on a high table and put a wedge under your back. You look at the dull glass eyes set into the wall. You know that soon it will go, but you won't see the glow. They're going to electrocute you. Even now the woman is putting the cold paste on your forehead. Your hands and legs are tired.
Come in, Virginia. Come in. Thank you, nurse. That'll be all for a while. Sit down, please. Now then, you remember me, don't you? I'm Dr. Kick, the psychiatrist here on Ward 3. I understand you're a writer. I spoke to your husband, Robert.
Robert?
You're very lucky to have a fine husband, Mrs. Cunningham. May I call you Virginia?
Yes.
You know why you're here, don't you, Virginia?
Nervous breakdown?
Something like that. Is there anything you'd like to tell me?
I'd like my glasses.
You what?
My glasses. They took them away from me in February when I came here. That was 10 months ago. I can barely see without them.
Excuse me a moment. Miss Hart, Dr. Kick, would you check through Virginia Cunningham's personal property and see if you can find a pair of glasses? Yes, bring them to my office, please. Thank you. You've never mentioned wearing glasses before.
Well, I've always felt they were a little, special.
Special?
Yes, the only wicked thing I can ever remember doing was putting an angleworm down a girl's back because she had something special.
And what was that?
Leg braces. I used to covet her leg braces. And later it was toothbrushes I was jealous of.
Why?
Well, it just seemed to me that all the top flight children had braces on their teeth. I had a friend named Libby, and she used to snap her braces in and out of her mouth. It was very effective. My mother would never let me have them. She told me I didn't need them, but that didn't fool me. All the rich kids had braces, and everybody knew it.
Come in.
Here are the glasses, Doctor.
No, thank you. Here they are, Virginia. Is something wrong?
These aren't mine.
They have your name on them, on the adhesive tape.
So they do.
You're not used to them.
So I suppose I'm not.
Miss Hart, I'm transferring Virginia to 1.
To 1, Doctor.
That's right. I'll talk to you again from time to time, Virginia. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Doctor.
This way, Virginia.
You walked down the long corridor with a nurse. You could see for the first time in months with your glasses on. In the past, you'd thought half-blindness was a burden. At Juniper Hill, it was a blessing. How ugly the day room was. How much browner and plainer. How hideous the curtains were. But that part of it was beautiful compared to the ladies. You bathed twice a week. Sometimes you had time to rinse off the soap before the nurse told you to make room for the next lady. Once a week was fine comb night. You squatted at Miss Hart's feet and she went through your hair with a fine comb. Beside her was an enamel pan you hoped had antiseptic in it. She used the same comb on 50 women. Aside from that, there was no organized attempt at personal cleanliness. The truth is that they're dirty.
Did you say something, Virginia?
Did I?
Here we are.
Where?
There's a surprise for you.
I don't like surprises.
You'll like this one. Right in here. Here she is.
Hello, darling.
Robert?
It's me, darling.
Right on the dot, too. We've
Was it
just been to
Robert?
see Dr. Kick, Mr.
Maybe
Cunningham.
you'd better look the other way
He's going
before
to
you
warn
start
you.
imagining
Yes,
all
I
sorts
know.
of things.
I
That's bad for a crazy woman.
Well,
No, it couldn't be Robert. Of course it was not Robert. They'd managed to make it look very much like him. That was it.
Hello.
Hello.
You want to sit down a minute?
All right.
Here.
It was like having a first date.
I just
Your knees were
Dr.
shaking.
Kick for a few minutes.
Yes?
Oh, he says you're much better.
Oh, does he?
Mm-hmm. He says it won't be much longer. He says you're going to Ward 1.
Yes.
The nurse there, Miss Davis, she's supposed to be a whiz. Very efficient.
That's nice.
I hope you didn't eat much lunch. I brought a picnic basket. We can sit here in the hall and pretend it's a meadow.
All right. The stars were wonderful last night.
Rained in town.
It did?
Mm-hmm.
It was clear as a bell. I looked at the stars coming home from the movie.
The movie was the night before last.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Dr. Kick mentioned it.
And I've lost another day. I don't suppose I'll ever find it. When you looked down, he was holding your hand, the way he'd always done, your fingers laced through his.
This afternoon is all we care about now.
Are you really, Robert?
Huh?
Oh, don't mind me. I say things without meaning anything.
Who doesn't? Wait till you see what I've got in this picnic basket. Yeah. How's that for a nice little roast chicken, Tomatoes for vitamins. Apple pie.
It was one of those glazed birds you see in delicatessens.
Coffee.
They never look real, and so is suitable for an unreal time. Robert is real, but I am the time of dreams. You shouldn't have spent so much.
I've got enough.
How much does it cost to keep me here?
Well, it's based on salary, so it can't be much. Don't think about it. Dig in.
There's nothing like a good meal. I don't mean the food here isn't all right.
You've got to keep your strength up.
What's the matter with me, Robert?
What?
Is it a brain tumor?
Oh, of course not. What made you think of that?
Well, I just thought of it.
It's a nervous breakdown.
That doesn't sound bad, does it?
Well, it takes time, that's all.
What do they do for it besides time?
Oh, those shock treatments. Charles, that's our family doctor. He thinks it's the answer.
Charles and his thinking. I wish he would take a shock treatment himself. That would stop him for a while. How many have I had?
Doesn't it so?
Are they going to give me more?
Kick says he will see.
Is that really his name?
Yeah. It's a funny spelling.
How much longer, Robert?
We have to be patient. You can't hurry these things. The main thing is to relax and take it easy. That's all.
Ward 1 was different. After so long a time as dark brown, you were thrilled by the zinnia colors in one's day room. Miss Davis, the chief nurse on one, was a trim-looking young woman of 30 dressed in a spotless white uniform.
This way, Mrs. Cunningham. This will be your room. This is your bed. I wouldn't sit on it if I were you. We like to keep them neat. You'll find that Ward 1 has different rules from the other wards. We take care of our rooms and make our own beds.
I can never make a bed look that neat.
You'll find the ladies in one most serious and cooperative. I trust you will be cooperative, Mrs. Cunningham. Ladies who are cooperative find Ward 1 very pleasant. As you know, most of our patients are discharged from the hospital.
I'll do my best.
Our ladies do not eat between meals. You'll have to leave your candy box with me.
Well, this is my pocketbook and my overnight bag, Miss Davis. The candy was eaten a long time ago.
I see. I hope you'll try to behave, Mrs. Cunningham.
Your smile had been a mistake. That was easy to see. Had you come upon Miss Davis outside, you would have said to yourself, there's a woman who is not entirely normal. Look at those eyes. Miss Davis's eyes had a look you didn't mind seeing in the eyes of a cat.
All right, ladies, we'll mop the day room now. Virginia, wet mop. Lola, dry mop. Miss Greer, ring up. That's all work, ladies.
Where are you from? Cleveland?
No. What ward, I mean?
3.
Oh, no. 1 does not come from 3. I myself was in 2 less than a week, but of course I have money.
Oh, don't mind her. She's a talker.
My name's Lola.
Mine's Virginia.
Got any cigarettes?
No, I'm afraid not.
Oh, you can have one of mine then.
Thank you.
No smoking, ladies.
I don't usually do menial work. They don't seem to understand that my husband, Mr. Greer, is very wealthy. I was in a number of exclusive hospitals before I came here. All restricted, of course.
Wet mop, Virginia. Wet, not dry.
You were a charity patient, of course?
No, as a matter of fact, my husband, Mr. Cunningham, is extremely wealthy.
I have the Hope Diamond.
Really? I have the Hopeless Emerald. Carries the Cunningham curse. You probably read of it.
My husband, Mr. Greer, considered buying it.
You don't say.
But, of course, it has a fly in it. You cannot put an imperfect stone on the most beautiful hands in the world.
Oh, she's nuts. Don't pay any attention to her. Virginia, can't you get a simple thing straight? Wet mop. Put the mop into the bucket. Wet it. Wring it. Then mop. That's easy, isn't it?
I'm trying.
Try harder.
I am.
You're not.
Please let me alone. Please.
Now, don't get upset. We don't get upset in one.
Oh, God. Let me see Dr. Kick.
Dr. Kick.
He's my doctor.
Dr. Curtis is the doctor in one.
No, Dr. Kick is my doctor.
Is that why you were placed here directly from 3?
Yes, Dr. Kick and I are old friends.
I see. You must be the one he mentioned to me some months ago at dinner, the writer?
Yes, I'm a writer.
He was telling some of us about you at dinner.
Can I see him, please?
You may not. So you're a writer. Well, obviously you aren't at home with mops and buckets.
No, I've never done much of that.
You'd better learn, then. I'm warning you. Learn.
Oh, you put your foot in it, kid. Once she's down on you, it's murder.
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything.
Seem to keep straight the dry mops and the wet mops.
I ain't talking about the mops, dearie.
What then?
Dr. Kick.
What about him?
Nothing. Except she's got a crush on him. If he was to ever give her a tumble, she'd probably fall apart.
Oh, that's nonsense. Yeah, how could he ever care for anyone like her?
I don't even know she's alive. When he comes through here, when he's on house duty, she almost slips.
I guess I put my foot in it after all.
Oh, you sure did, baby. You watch out for Miss Davis. She's a killer when she freezes up on you.
Next morning, you had your first meeting with Dr. Curtis, the ward doctor in one. He was a short, fat man with thick lens glasses. He wasn't at all like Dr. Kick. There were a few questions. He had some papers in a folder, looked at you through the glasses, and then sent you back to the ward. That was all.
Mrs. Cunningham, we do not allow lying on the floor.
Well, I was afraid I would muss the bed.
There's a rest period every afternoon after dinner. There's ample time for rest.
I was tired.
You're feeling sorry for yourself. Well, perhaps this will help you.
What's that?
Portable typewriter?
What for?
Dr. Curtis says you may write for an hour each day. I'll leave the typewriter here in the room.
I'll have to have a chair.
Naturally.
And some papers.
I'm fully aware of what is necessary. Seems Dr. Kick has spoken to Dr. Curtis and recommended that you be permitted to write.
Oh.
He seems to take quite an interest in you. Well, you will use the machine only during the rest hour. I suppose you'll make an awful racket.
I don't want to bother anyone. I don't have to write.
The doctors say you are to write. There will be no argument, please. You will write.
You wrote. You wrote that now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of V. Cunningham. You wrote that Virginia lay sleeping in the moonlight and longed to be on Wolf's thundering train. You wrote about the cops rushing in. It's awful to think of things to us. And if you paused for more than a minute...
What's the trouble, Virginia? Why aren't you writing?
After rest hour, you would tear your manuscript into small pieces and flush them down the drain in the bathroom. You were afraid Miss Davis would catch you at it. And then one afternoon, you found yourself writing something strange. It was dialogue for two faceless women. You actually stopped typing so you could listen to what they were saying.
Isn't that Robert Cunningham here tonight with Virginia Stewart? He married her. I thought she was engaged to Gordon Timberlake.
Darling, didn't you know? He died.
Gordon?
Isn't it awful? He was so good looking. You were abroad, I guess.
Did Bob think he had to marry her just because he and Gordon were such good friends?
Looks like it.
I never could see her. And all the girls Gordon might have had. How did he die?
I don't know. Some terrible disease, I think.
Oh, no.
Personally, I never could see her.
No.
So plain.
Stop it.
Ridiculous creature.
Stop it. Stop laughing at me. Stop laughing at me.
Hello, Virginia.
Oh, Dr. Kix. God.
I happen to be making rounds. I thought I'd see how you were getting along. Something wrong? You can tell me. You must know that.
Yes, Dr. Kix. I can't stay in Ward 1. I just can't.
Can't?
I'm not up to it. I'm not well enough.
What's the trouble?
I can't remember where things are. I get the mops mixed up.
You are writing, though. Miss Davis tells me you write every day.
Yes, I'm typing.
Typing?
She comes and asks me what's wrong if I stop. If I say I don't feel like writing, she says I must.
I see.
Is it true that you can go home from any ward? I mean, it doesn't have to be from one.
Yes, it's true.
And I want to be transferred.
What about the ladies in one? Are you friendly with them?
Oh, yes, but it's so hard to become friends. Really, friends in a place like this is like making friends in a depot.
Well, Dr. Curtis is the ward doctor in one. It's up to him, really.
I can't talk to him. He's only seen me for about 2 minutes since I got here.
Unfortunately, that's what happens when one psychiatrist must handle 800 patients.
Is it that many?
That's par for a state hospital.
Well, how does anyone ever get well?
I don't know.
But people do get well. They do, don't they?
Yes, Virginia.
Doc,
Yes,
will I get well?
yes.
Oh, you say it so convincingly, I almost believe it.
You must.
I think if I could get out of Ward 1.
Are you sure it's as bad here as you say?
It isn't the ward, it's Miss Davis. And I know why she hates me.
So?
She's jealous
Jealous of
of
what?
you. She's in love with you. She hates me because you're my doctor. It's true. I may be mixed up and sick, but I know it's true. So do you. So do you, Dr. Kix. Don't you?
I'll see what I can do to get you transferred.
Our host, Vincent Price, will return in just a moment with Act Two of Radio Theater, transcribed, starring Agnes Moorehead in The Snake Pit. Now, here again is our Radio Theater host, Mr. Vincent Price.
And we continue with Act Two of this evening's radio theater production, The Snake Pit, starring Agnes Moorehead.
It was an old story. Not enough nurses, not enough doctors, not enough people who were aware of what happened inside a mental hospital. Custodial care. 1 out of every 10 Americans will spend time as a mental patient. Why don't we wake up? Where did the trouble lie? Money, perhaps? Not enough money to pay the doctors and nurses to staff the hospital. It seemed so simple you wanted to do something about it. What? Write a book, perhaps? Well, time to think about that when you were well. Meanwhile, thank God for Dr. Kick, and heaven help the thousands of patients who didn't have a Dr. Kick to take a personal interest in them. When the transfer to Ward 2 came through, you felt a little guilty.
This is your new nurse, Mrs. Flatterson. This is the patient, Mrs. Flatterson. I must warn you, she isn't very cooperative. Thank you, Miss Davis. Goodbye, Mrs. Cunningham. Oh, I'm glad to have you with us, Mrs. Cunningham. Dr. Kix told me about you. This is Ward 2, not the grandest one, but we get along. No one wants to be at Juniper Hill. I don't much want to be here myself, but if you got to stay a while, you might as well try to make the best of it. Dr. Kix says you're right.
Yes, but I'd rather not do it here if it's all right not to.
Sure, it's all right. I don't see how you get right in a place like this anyhow. Wait till you get home. Come on inside. I'll introduce you to the ladies.
The ladies of two were very friendly. They were not so well groomed and bright as the ladies in one, but they seemed more relaxed. Each morning there was a big to-do about mopping floors and making beds, but it seemed rather fun. People helped you, and you helped them. Mrs. Flutterson's idea appeared to make the work as light a burden as possible. Her ward didn't begin to look as neat as Miss Davis's, but there was a feeling about the place.
Kids, we should give the place the old business today. One of the big shots is coming through, and I don't want to lose my job.
And that morning the kids would go to town on mopping and polishing, and the next day Mrs. Flutterson would bring around a box of cookies and some new records. By the time Robert came, I was really feeling much better.
Mrs. Flutterson tells me I can take you down to the commissary for a soda.
But I don't have any coat.
One coat coming up.
Well, that's my green cloth.
Put it on. Here. Why, you look like $1 million in that outfit.
I think I'd rather look like an ordinary woman.
Come on, we'll go downstairs.
Have fun, kids.
It's pretty cold out. You really ought to have a mop.
I can put my hands in my pockets.
Well, maybe I ought to bring your mop next time.
Put your hands in the pockets of the green coat.
Commissary's over this
One
way,
pocket was a glove and a handkerchief.
That's all Maggie
was
said
a
last
stub of a
time.
theater.
You should see that.
Like putting your hands in the pockets of a dead woman. And the faint perfume of the handkerchief was like the scent from withered burial wreaths.
You'll be going home soon.
What?
I said you'll be going home soon.
Home?
I spoke to Dr. Kick. He says you'll be going to staff in about a week.
To staff?
It's a board of doctors. They interview you and then decide whether you're ready to go home. Well, actually, once you get that far, it's a cinch. Sodas is pretty
Commissary
good.
was a little store with tables and wire-back chairs. You sat there trembling. Robert seemed to recede into the distance. You felt alone. So alone. Some of the people around you were well people. Were they looking at you, thinking, there is one of the sick ones? You won't let them scare you. You'll look at them. At another table, two men are having coffee. You can't tell which is which. And next to them, an old lady was trying to persuade a young man not to eat his sundae with his hands.
Jenny?
Huh? What?
Is something wrong?
No, nothing.
Oh. You seem so preoccupied. Well, another couple of weeks, you'll be back home again. You don't have to be nervous at the staff interview, darling. They write down what you say, and then they study it.
Don't they tell you anything?
Well, no, not right away. But really, it's nothing to worry about. Kick, he says you'll do just fine. There's nothing to worry about.
There was nothing to worry about. An assistant nurse took you to the hall outside the staff room, and you sat on a row of folding chairs with 8 or 9 other ladies. You waited a long time. The other ladies were called. One came out sobbing. They didn't tell you anything. It took a long time. You waited. Finally, your name was called, and you got up trembling. You had on your glasses, but you couldn't see. Going through the door, you struck one of your shoulders against the frame. Inside the room, 7 or 8 people sat facing an empty chair.
Sit down, Mrs. Cunningham.
You looked for Dr. Kick, but he wasn't there.
Now then, Mrs. Cunningham.
The short, fat one with the thick glasses, Dr. Curtis.
Just make yourself comfortable.
Your vision cleared a little, and you saw that the people in the audience had pencils.
Your name?
He waggled his fat forefinger in your face.
Your name, please.
Virginia Curtis Cunningham.
Where and when were you born?
Maybe I can get through it without Dr. Kick. Maybe if I try.
Where?
Cleveland.
What state is that in?
Ohio.
Good. Where were you living when you became ill?
New York.
Where in New York?
New York City.
I mean, where in New York City?
Manhattan.
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Cunningham, what was your address in New York?
I don't know.
Come now, you know your own address? Just think a moment.
Well, I've forgotten it. I could never remember figures.
What street did you live on?
I can't remember. We lived on Waverly, and we lived on 9th and on 10th. I think there was another one, not Bleecker. Maybe it was Christopher. No, that's my sister, Helene.
Is your husband still occupying your apartment?
Of course.
You are sure of this?
No, but I think he would have said something if they'd moved.
Your husband has been here to see
All
you?
writing on those papers. What?
Has he been here?
Yes,
How often does he come?
as often as the rule allows.
How often is that?
Why does he waggle his finger in my...
Well, how often?
Why, don't you know?
If you please. Mrs. Cunningham, I know. I know all about it. I'm simply trying to find out if you know.
Well, I can't see what difference it makes. Would you change the rule?
How often are you allowed to have visitors, Mrs. Cunningham? Will you please answer the questions? It'll make it easier for all of us.
Once every 2 weeks. That is, my husband is allowed to come once every 2 weeks. I wouldn't know about the others.
What is your husband's occupation?
He's an auditor.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, go on.
Why don't you say what you mean, you fat...
Go on.
I couldn't possibly. I don't understand this at all. He's just getting ready. Did you warn him?
By whom is he employed?
The Alden Hotel.
The Alden Hotel.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Well, yes. The Alden Hotel. Maybe you've never heard of them. It's rather a small chain. He audits for the New York hotel.
Are you sure your husband does not work for the Kraft Hotel?
He works for the Alden Hotel.
Mrs. Cunningham, would you recognize your husband's handwriting?
Of course.
Will you look at this paper? Is it your husband's writing?
Yes.
What do you see?
I see he's written he works for the Kraft Hotels Incorporated.
And you still insist he's employed by a chain called Alden?
Of course not. If he says it's Kraft, it's Kraft. Obviously, I was mistaken. I'm sorry. I'm not mistaken. Obviously, they've gotten Robert to write the wrong name. Oh, Lord, I feel sick. Why is he wagging that finger under my nose?
I understand you were distressed to be without your glasses.
Well, I'm very nearsighted.
Yes?
Minus 5.7, minus 0.25.
What are you talking about?
But that's my prescription.
How do you explain that you remember a lengthy prescription when you can't remember your home address?
I hate him.
Well?
There's nothing mysterious about it. You don't expect to forget your address, so you make no particular effort to memorize it.
You made an effort to memorize your prescription?
Oh, I've always had a horror of losing my glasses away from home.
Doesn't your address seem important to you?
I don't suppose I'll have to find my way back there alone.
Mrs. Cunningham, a friendly attitude will get us along more rapidly. Now to get back to Mr. Cunningham, who is employed by Kraft Hotels Incorporated. You're certain he is residing in your former apartment?
I was. Of course, now you've made it obvious that he isn't.
Mrs. Cunningham. Mrs. Cunningham.
Taking his finger again. It's so close to your face. He looks as if he wants to strike you or poke your eye out with it. Now he's going to poke your eye. He's going to blind you. Do something quick. Fight! Fight! They caught you, of course. They tripped you and you fell down screaming. They put your head in a sack and someone sat on your legs. The sack was tied around your chest and you couldn't breathe.
The days went by, one after another, empty days for Virginia, with no meaning to anything. Strange people came and went, shadowy figures in a world without substance. On occasion, dim threads out of the past or present, it was all the same, would catch in the dark recesses of her mind, setting her creative energies to plodding through a morass of thought.
The sea slashed at the rocky coast, and sometimes a wave that would be the seventh would strike against the walls of the prison. High tide, high tide.
All right, student nurses, pay attention. I'll show you how to do it.
The cell's only piece of furniture was the narrow bed on which she lay.
Now, they call this a cold patch. The idea is to wind the patient in cold, wet sheets so she can't move. You get it?
She'd never seen the exterior of the building.
This one used to be a writer.
And the island, now at high tide, not much larger than the building, a handful of stones dropped by a giant.
Took 7 of us to hold her down after she bit Dr. Curtis on the finger. That's it. Wrap the sheets very
No
tightly.
grass, no weeds, no bushes, no trees. The gulls circled and swooped away. Sometimes a large boat passed at a safe distance, and passengers who knew no better said, "There's a lighthouse."
She really went off her rocker.
She's young, the young jailer would say.
We'll get her into the tubs in the morning.
Better for her to be dead then, the old man said.
Some writer. Listen to her.
In the daytime, they took you to the tubs. You lay back in a canvas hammock, and they closed another piece of canvas over you, tight around the neck so you couldn't get out. And the water was kept running at body temperature. Whose body, you wondered?
Relax, society lady.
I have to get out.
Relax.
But I have to, don't you understand?
Sorry.
Please.
The water's changing all the time. Don't worry about a thing. Here's your lunch.
I'm not hungry.
Honey, you haven't eaten for a couple of days. Come on now. Let me feed you.
No?
Look, if you won't eat, we'll have to force feed you, and that isn't any fun. Come on.
No. This was something you could do, one way to fight back. For a long time she tried to shove the food into your mouth, but you were too smart for her. Then a man came. A man who resembled Robert, but you knew it was only a trick. They had disguised him to look like Robert.
It's no use, Dr. Kick. She doesn't know me. Let me try again. Virginia? Virginia, this is Dr. Kick. Your husband is here, Virginia. Virginia, won't you talk to him? Oh, Ginny, honey, you got to eat something. Ginny, it's Robert. Open your mouth, Ginny.
He was a clever impersonator, all right. So was the other one, the one who called himself Dr. Kick. You were wise to them. You knew if you opened your mouth, it'd shove food into it. If that water run out of the tub now, that the bedding was sopping wet. Taken away the tile walls of the tub room and enlarged the cubicle. Oh, the trouble they went to. They couldn't be satisfied with electrocuting you and choking you. They had to bundle you up in icy wrappings and torture you with food. Say it again and I'll scream.
Virginia, please eat.
All right, nurse. Nurse, use the tube. Come outside, Mr. Cunningham.
What are they doing?
We'll have to force feed her.
Dr. Kick, yes? What do you think? Can you make her well?
How can I answer?
Tell me the truth. Is she hopeless?
Mr. Cunningham, I believe that no one is hopeless.
Oh, but she's so far gone. She doesn't even know me. She's no different from any of those others. Some of them are hopeless.
Only because we can't treat them properly. Listen, I have seen the most withdrawn schizophrenics come out of it under constant therapy. This is the problem, don't you see? To treat most patients properly, they should be seen every day.
Well,
more than half the hospital beds in America are filled by mental patients. Most of them are lucky to see a psychiatrist once a week. For many of them, it's once a month or even less.
Well, why can't I get more doctors?
There's a shortage of psychiatrists to begin with. And why should a doctor accept a position for $6,000 a year when he can earn 20 or more taking private patients who can afford $10 to $25 an hour?
What are you doing?
I often wonder.
We're feeding her now, Doctor.
I'll have to go in.
Oh.
I'm trying to devote some time to your wife, Mr. Cunningham. I've been seeing her for a little while each day while she was in the tubs and under restraint. Sooner or later, perhaps I'll be able to reach her.
Doctor, is there anything I can do?
Just be there. Visit her when you can. I know it's discouraging, but as long as she knows someone cares.
Oh, does she? Does she know?
Yes. I believe she knows. Not consciously, perhaps, but it registers someplace. Don't lose hope.
One night you discovered a way to get out of the cold pack by using your teeth to loosen the shoulder twist. You crept through the ward until you found a dry bed. You got into the bed, and when the wind rattled the window, you made yourself into a ball and smiled.
Wake up, Virginia.
Huh?
Wake up. How did you manage to get into a dry bed?
I was cold.
Do you mean you managed to get out of the pack by yourself?
Yes.
Well, that shows some initiative. Maybe you're not as sick as we think.
You began to come out of it. You wanted to get well. You never had a conscious moment in which you were not aware of being sick. Asked your greatest wish in life, you would have replied without a moment's hesitation. Sanity.
You've got a visitor, Virginia. Look.
Robert.
Oh, Jimmy. Oh, Jenny, honey.
You've been away a long time.
Yes,
Where were you?
right here.
You mean I'm the one who's been away?
I'm afraid so.
What month is it?
February.
How long have I been here?
At Juniper Hill, just a year this month.
I talked to Dr. Kick yesterday.
Oh, you've been talking to him for a few weeks now.
Have I?
Yeah.
Why, yes. Yes, I seem to remember.
Well, don't think about it. You're going to get well, Jenny. You're going to get well and come home. Just think about that.
Home?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go home. Yesterday when I went to... No, that wasn't yesterday.
It was 3 months ago.
The man kept sticking his finger in my face and asking questions.
No.
I couldn't remember the name of the hotel.
Oh, that was my fault.
Yours?
I should have told you.
Told me what?
Well, that Kraft bought out the Olden hotels. I put it on the form they gave me. I didn't dream they'd ask you questions like that.
Well, it wasn't the questions. It was the way he kept sticking his finger in my face.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure he won't do that to anyone again.
Why not?
Don't you know?
No. Tell me.
You bid it.
I did?
Mm-hmm.
I did? Oh, Robert, how funny.
Yeah, Dr. Kick thinks it's pretty funny, too.
That poor little fat man. Oh, Robert. You think you're beginning to get well. You can actually make a joke. You go back to Ward 2, and Mrs. Featherson is there with a bundle of your clothing in her arms.
Here are your things, Virginia.
My things?
You're being transferred.
Where to?
Building 5, 33.
33? Oh, no, there's some mistake. Dr. Kick placed me here in 2. I like it here.
Not even Dr. Kick can do anything about this. The rule is that after a year, you must leave the reception building and go to one of the permanent buildings.
Well, I won't.
Virginia. Please.
No, I won't. I know what that place is like.
If you don't go peacefully, I'll have to get an attendant.
I won't go. I know what you're trying to do to me.
We aren't trying to do anything. Now, look, you come along with me, and I'll talk to
You
Dr.
knew as she
Kick
came
later.
toward you with a bundle of sheets in her arm what was going to happen. She was going to choke you, and Dr. Kick was in on it. He comes to your rescue because he's under the impression that he's the only one who's permitted to kill you. Each day I'll kill you, he says. Each weekday once, and twice on Sundays. Each day I'll kill you.
Hello, dear.
Who are you?
It's a cat's cradle. Want to play?
Where am I?
I'll show you.
What kind of a place is this?
She can't do a cat's cradle. Look what I've got.
You keep away from me.
It's only a doll.
Where's the nurse?
I ain't like some. I got a temperature of nothing.
You look around. The old woman with the doll has a cropped head. She wears a gray sweatshirt and her nose is dripping. The other one joins the ladies of the Cat's Cradle Society in the corner of the ward. There's no furniture. 7 or 8 women crouch like animals on the linoleum floor. Another walks up and down in a pattern. 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, 1 to the right, 1 to the left. Young girl, quite beautiful, is crying to herself. When anyone comes near, she bares her teeth and snarls. This is 33. These are the legions of lost souls, and you are one of them.
All right, ladies, bedtime. Line up for medication.
You lay there that first night listening to the sobs and the shrieks and the frightened breathing, waiting for the hypnotic they gave you to take effect.
I was a telephone operator once. Quiet, ladies. Go to sleep. I never get over Louise. She was only 6 when she died. She looked so pretty in her coffin, just like she was asleep. Sometimes a cat's cradle looks like a coffin. Go to sleep, Eva. You're disturbing the other ladies. I ain't like some. I've got a temperature of nothing.
You pulled the blanket around you. You thought I should be frightened. I'm in a much worse building now, and yet I'm not frightened. Why? You listen to the old woman, the one with the cat's cradle, and to the doll maker. You say to yourself, I'm not as sick as sound. I don't think Robert is here. I know where I am, and I know something else that they don't know. I know I'm sick, and I need help.
And a cat's cradle looks like a spider, too. They aren't really dolls. They're people. Please, ladies, quiet down.
Shock treatment, insulin, metrazole, electricity. Long ago, they lowered insane persons into snake pits. They thought the horror might send an insane person back to sanity. Well, you knew now. Whether they planned it that way or not, they'd given Virginia Cunningham a more drastic shock treatment than they planned. They'd thrown her into the snake pit, and she'd been shocked into knowing she would get well.
And here is the host of Radio Theater, Vincent Price.
And our star, Agnes Moorehead. Agnes, all of us here in the Radio Theater are grateful to you for an outstanding performance.
Thank you. The Snake Pit, to me, is a really commendable story. Not only from the standpoint of fine drama, but because it opens long-locked windows and sheds light and understanding on a condition that for too long has been obscured by fear and superstition and ignorance.
I agree with you. Today we know that mental illness is a health problem. And today, 40% of the patients in mental hospitals recover and go home to their families.
But the shocking truth is that 70 and even 80% could be saved if our hospitals were equipped to give the scientific treatment needed to help sick people get well.
Yes. Yes, that's so very true. And while mental illness isn't pleasant to talk about, more enlightenment on the subject in the manner of the snake pit might jar us into the necessary action to cope with a problem that becomes increasingly alarming each year. Agnes, one of the most unforgettable performances in the whole history of radio, and I might add the most often repeated by public demand, was yours in Sorry, Wrong Number. What are you doing currently?
What am I doing currently? Well, I'm playing a queen, Alec Guinness's mother in The Swan, and I just finished playing Jerry Lewis's mother in Partners. Oh, yes, before that, I played Dan Daly's mother in Meet Me in Las Vegas. Think I'm playing too many mothers? Well, they're all different, and they're all a lot of fun.
Well, we'll certainly look forward to seeing them. And thank you again for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it very much. Good night.
Good night, Agnes Moorhead. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will join us again next week here in your radio theater for another fine play with another brilliant cast. Until then, this is Vincent Price saying good night from Hollywood.
Drama The Snake Pit, starring Agnes Moorehead, was adapted for radio by George Leffert, transcribed and directed by Andrew C. Love. Heard in tonight's cast were Peg LaCentra as Miss Hart, Paul Frees was the narrator, Alice Backus was Grace, Natalie Masters the nurse, Jan Arvan was Dr. Kick, Larry Dobkin was Robert, Alice Reinhardt was Miss Davis, Virginia Eiler was Lola, Monty Margetts was Mrs. Fredderson, Stanley Farrar was Dr. Curtis, Noreen Gamil, the old woman. Miriam J. was Dolly. This is Don Stanley speaking.
This is the NBC Radio Network.